All right, in this demo video, I'm going to configure a CloudFront distribution. And basically, CloudFront is AWS's content delivery network service, and it allows AWS to deliver contents to users' requests at a much faster rate based on CloudFront's regional location and regional cache nodes. So let's take a look at the network diagram here and see what I'll be working with. So here is something I drew up. This here is the overall bird's eye view of the environment that I'm going to deploy. So I'll first create an S3 bucket here. This is the S3 bucket, and inside there I'm going to upload a S3 logo JPEG file so that we can test access to that file directly through S3's URL. And then also I'll create some folders. One will be called colors, and then in there I'll have two files, a blue.jpg and a red.jpg, for me to test access to those files to see how fast those files respond. And then I'll have another folder called errors, where I will have two JPEG files. One will be my error 404 JPEG file, and then the other one is going to be my file for geo restriction testing. Here we have my CloudFront environment here. CloudFront is going to use S3 as its origin server, and within this CloudFront environment, here's CloudFront. CloudFront has geographically dispersed its CloudFront edge locations, and within that it's going to have the regional cache nodes here at each of their locations. And then within that is going to be the replicated objects that it replicated from the S3. And so with that being said, here is the overall task that I'll be doing. Basically create an S3 bucket, upload some objects into there, and then test the URL access to those objects. Those objects are basically going to be my S3 logo, my color files, and then I'm going to set permissions on those buckets, and then create a CloudFront distribution. And then the other thing I'm going to do is configure origin access ID, so that way I can allow only CloudFront to access the S3 bucket and its contents, and no one else. So we are restricting access to S3 only for CloudFront to use and no one else. And then after that's done, I'm going to create a custom error page, and then we're going to test that out, and then also test out the geo restriction service, and then examine also the response time between the S3 direct access to those files versus the CloudFront access to those files, and see the response times of each. CloudFront should be a lot faster, but we'll use Google's inspect tool to look at the network response time for that. And then once that's all done, we can go ahead and delete the CloudFront distribution. So with that being said, here's the AWS console, and let's get started. Let's create our first bucket here. So right now there's no bucket, so let's just create a bucket real quick. General purpose, we'll call this CloudFront S3 bucket 95134. Leave everything blank or default. Keep this block all public access for now, and create bucket. All right, that bucket's done. Let's go into the bucket, and then we're going to upload the first file. Add files, and then I am here in my source file. I'm going to upload a file called s3-logo.jpg. All right, and that's done there. And then I close this out. And then what I want to do next is create a folder, because I know that I want to create two folders. Let's look at the network diagram again. I want to create a folder called colors to upload my two JPEG color files there, and then I'll upload, and then I'll create another folder called errors, and then upload my two error JPEG files there. So let's do that. First one is colors, and then don't specify an encryption key, use server-side encryption, create folder. All right, and then create another folder called errors. Same thing, create folder. All right, I'm gonna go into my colors folder and then upload two files. One is my red file, and then the other one is going to be my blue file. One of the files is pretty big, 13 megs for the red. All right, so that's done. And now I am going to go back to my bucket and then go into my errors folder and then upload my two files. And those two files are just going to be the error.jpg one, and then it's going to be the blocked.jpg one. And just so you see what those are again, these are the two files right here, error 404, and then one is going to be the blocked file. All right, let's go back to the console. All right, that looks like it's done. And then now let's go back to the main bucket. So here was our main file, just straight from the S3 bucket. It's not within a folder. Let's go ahead and see if we can copy the URL and access it that way. Let me use Chrome for that. All right, and then paste. And then here it is. I hit enter, and we don't have access. All right, we don't have access because we don't have the permission set up. So we go back to permissions, and then you see how it says block all public access right now. Let's go ahead and hit edit, and then uncheck that to allow public access. And we want to confirm that yes, it's unsafe, but let's do it for the demo of this, for the purpose of this demo. Let's do that. Okay, so that's done. That looks good there. Let's go ahead and go back to see if we can test it again. Hit refresh. Okay, still we're not able to. We are still not able to. So let's go back to the console again. And what we have to do now is create a bucket policy that'll allow us access to the bucket. So not only does it have to be the public access, but then we need to create a bucket policy. So let's go ahead and create one. So what do we add? We can use the policy generator to create a bucket policy. So here on the policy type, we want to choose S3 bucket policy. For principal, we're just going to put a wildcard in there. Actions, we're going to need to allow list bucket. So go scroll down to where it says list bucket here, uncheck that. And then for the ARN, we copy the ARN that's provided here. Go back, add statement. Okay, so that allows us to list the bucket. Now, we also need another statement to allow us access to the contents within the folders, right? So let's go ahead and add another statement. It's going to be S3 bucket, and then for principal, we're going to say wildcard that. Actions, we need to say get object. Get object. There it is there, and then also put object. There it is, boom. All right, and then the ARN is still my clipboard, so I'll just paste that. And then here, what I need to do is say /star for anything after the bucket. Add statement. There it is. Generate policy, and the policy is generated for me. And then I'll just copy and paste into my bucket policy. And then I'll hit save changes. And then it says successfully edited bucket policy. All right, so now I can go back into my objects and let's try that again. Let's go back into, let's just start over here. Copy URL, go back into Google. Let's just paste it again. And there it is. Now I do have access to my file. Basically, it's just a logo that says Amazon S3. So that's good to go. Let's test some of the other ones. Okay, so we go back into the console and now we click on colors. And for the colors, I'm going to click on this and then copy the URL for the blue image and then go back to Google. And then here, I'm going to paste the blue in here. But before I hit enter, I want to inspect to see how fast the load is going to be here. So I hit inspect here, and then I'll choose network. I'll clear this out, and then I'll hit enter. So on the first attempt, it was 860 milliseconds, right? So this is a pretty big file, I guess. So then if I hit refresh again, it should be faster, 119 milliseconds. 116 milliseconds, 107, 105, 104. Okay, so about 105 milliseconds. So let's go back into the network diagram here and we can say, put a note in here. Let's see if we can put a note in here somewhere. So we'll say blue.jpg via S3 direct equals 105 milliseconds. All right, so we'll just keep that there for our notes. All right, and then so that's good. Let's go ahead and go back to the console. Let's see how fast the red loads. Now red is a lot bigger, but we'll go ahead and try that. So copy URL, go back to Chrome, and then let's use another tab, and then inspect this one. Network, clear that out, enter. Oh, look at that, 1.35 seconds for that first attempt. All right, let's go ahead and just refresh that. On the second attempt, it's 158 milliseconds, 125, 135. Let's just say 120 for that. So let's go back into our notes here, and then we'll say red.jpg is, what was it, 120. All right, cool, so we got that there. All right, so we did that already, and let's go back. Now let's go ahead and create our CloudFront distribution. And for CloudFront distribution, I am going to get started here. So let's do that. CloudFront distribution, go into our console. And for that, we're going to say CloudFront. CloudFront. All right, CloudFront, and let's create a CloudFront distribution because there's none yet. For the origin, I hit the field there and auto populates because there's only one origin available, so I'll choose that. Public access, okay. And then we'll leave everything else default. Okay. I need to not enable security for now. We don't need the WAF protection for this demo. And then that's it. Everything else is default. And I'll hit create distribution. So this is going to take a while. I'm going to hit my stopwatch just to see how long it takes. So right now it's deploying. So if I hit distribution, it says deploying. Okay, so then that's that. Back to CloudFront, production, enable, deploying. So I'm going to test access to my files by using the CloudFront domain name. So I'll copy that and go into my Google here and paste that in there, /s3-logo.jpg. Okay, so that's not ready. So the CloudFront distribution is not ready yet. We'll just wait. There it is. And that took about 1 minute and 30 seconds for CloudFront distribution deployment to successfully finish. So about 1 minute and 30 seconds. So now I'm accessing the s3-logo.jpg from CloudFront. So let's look at the network diagram here. So what I did was I requested the S3 logo JPEG through my CloudFront distribution. Going this way, CloudFront requested from its origin S3 server, and then now it's in here, is in the cache. So let's see how fast that is. Inspect. "51 milliseconds on the first attempt, 23 milliseconds on the second attempt." Okay, great. So now let's take a look at the colors. All right, colors/blue.jpg. Right. Previously, if we went from S3 directly, it was 101 milliseconds. And then now let's go ahead and do it from the CloudFront. "811 milliseconds on the first try." Refresh again. 33 milliseconds. 31 milliseconds. 26 milliseconds. I'll keep refreshing, but yeah, you see that it's 31 milliseconds here. So that's pretty quick. That's pretty quick. 31 milliseconds. Let's go back in here and we'll say blue. We'll say blue via CloudFront is 31 milliseconds compared to 105 milliseconds. So that's that right there, right? Now let's look at the red. So red, when we went through the S3 direct access, it was 119 milliseconds. So if I use CloudFront, if I choose CloudFront, and I'll say red, and then I'll choose inspect network, and I'll clear this out. I'll clear this out, and I'll hit enter. This is a big file, so we got 1.09 seconds. Let me hit refresh again. 43 milliseconds after the first attempt. Okay, so that first attempt was a cache miss, and then subsequent ones are cache hits. So now we're getting faster response time. 41 milliseconds. Let's just say 58 milliseconds. So 58 milliseconds, go back into this diagram here, and red, 58 milliseconds. All right, 58 milliseconds compared to 120 milliseconds from S3 directly. So you can see that CloudFront is able to serve up content faster because it's requesting the objects from S3, and then it's storing it in its regional cache nodes at its edge locations throughout the world. Wherever, which ones you are close to, it stores it over there for your subsequent requests. It can serve it up faster. Okay, so that's good to know. So we tested that out. So we uploaded objects, tested URL access, set permissions. We created a CloudFront distribution, and now we need to configure origin access ID and policy. So let's go ahead and do that. So go back to the console. So in this, basically the origin access ID will allow only CloudFront to access S3. So that means when I disable public access, let's do this here. Open a new tab. Okay, here's my S3, right? If I go to this bucket here, go back to permissions, and I hit edit here, and I block all public access. Save changes. Confirm. And go back to the Google. And if I hit refresh, I shouldn't have access directly to the S3, right? But what about through CloudFront? Should I have access through the CloudFront? Here's my CloudFront distribution, cloudfront.net. If I hit refresh, yes, I do have access to the CloudFront, because even though I'm blocking access, even though I'm blocking public access to the S3, and we didn't create an origin access ID that will only allow CloudFront to have access to S3. The object is stored locally here in its regional cache nodes, so that's why it's able to serve that up. So let's see if we can invalidate the blue object, meaning that I have to tell CloudFront to say, make sure you mark the blue file invalid, so that way you don't serve that up anymore. So let's see if we can do that. So let's go back to CloudFront and invalidations, create invalidation, and here I'll say /colors/blue.jpg, create invalidation, and it's in progress. It's going to take a while. Now it's going to set the blue as invalid. So if I go back to here and I hit refresh, there it is. I don't have access anymore because I've just marked the blue.jpg file as invalid. CloudFront will not serve it up anymore. What it was there before was cache, and I've now told CloudFront to mark that as invalid. Don't provide that to the user request. So that's that. All right, so now go back to the console, and we were going to create the origin access ID to only allow CloudFront access to the S3 bucket, because we've turned off the public access to the bucket, and now we need to allow CloudFront access to the bucket. So I'm curious though, what happens if I say there was a file in here in the S3 bucket, right? It was called blocked.jpg or error 404 file. So let me see if I can access that. I shouldn't be able to because I've set this to non-public, but let's just try. And it was errors, and it was error.jpg. Okay, so I couldn't access that. Again, what I was trying to do was access a file here through CloudFront, and of course, because I don't have the allow public access turned on, it won't allow CloudFront to access. So that's why we need to create an origin ID. Let's go back and create an origin ID, edit this, and this is how you do it. You go here, you say origin access control settings, all right, and then you say you choose this because this is your only origin right now. Click on that, and then you need a bucket policy now for the CloudFront as the principal service. So I'll copy policy. Okay, I'll save changes. Now I go back to my S3 bucket. Under permissions, I need to edit this bucket policy. Okay, now I'm going to paste whatever I copy from the CloudFront, right? So I'm going to paste this. So this is saying allow CloudFront to access my S3 bucket, all right? And the actions are S3 get bucket, but I also need another one. Action S3 list bucket. Actually, let me do this. Let me just back out of here really quick. Let's go back to CloudFront. Click on this, see if I can do something here. Edit. Copy policy, go to S3 permissions. Edit. Okay, actually, Let me copy the policy here. Go back to the bucket policy from earlier. Remove that. Paste the origin access ID access control policy here. And then I also need to add a new statement. And then it's going to be S3, right? And then I'm going to allow S3 list bucket. Okay, and then S3 get object is there. I just need to put an S3 put object as well. Boom. And then for resources, right now there's no resource. Oh, there's one resource. I need to add another resource. S3, and then the bucket itself. The bucket name is, what's the bucket name? There it is. Add resource. All right, so I got my resource here. Save changes. Okay, there seems to be an error. Missing required field principal cannot be empty. Action. Okay, actually, let's do this. This is going to be a lot easier if I do this. Under actions, I'm just going to add manually action, right? And then say S3 list bucket, comma, and then action. S3 put object, then resource. I need one more resource, and that's just going to be the bucket itself. Okay, let me just, looks like we've got some errors here. Let's go back and do this again. Apple ZZZ. Let's do this. We need to copy this from CloudFront. Copy policy. Go back here. Paste the policy. Right? So that's done. Resource. Oh, you know what it is? I think I know what it is. There's some syntax I gotta do here. I think I need a bracket after the action. S3 get object, boom, colon, S3 put object, comma, S3 list bucket, bracket, believe that's it. I believe that's it. And then here, I need another policy. I mean, another resource. So I need a bracket here. ARN. Let's try that now. Oh, there's something wrong here. I need to put a comma here. Comma here. Save changes. Okay. Just a couple syntax, JSON syntax issues. All right, that's done. That's saved. So here's the overall format. So basically, I am allowing S3's access from CloudFront. CloudFront is my service, and the action CloudFront is able to do is get, put, and list the buckets, and the resources is going to be the main bucket, and then the contents / folders access within that bucket, and the condition is only when it's from CloudFront with the distribution ID here. So that's done, thank goodness. And let's go ahead and close that out. Back to CloudFront. All right, so let's go ahead and go back to our file that we couldn't access earlier. One of them was this, right? Let's see if we can get it going now. The let's see, which one do I want to get? All right, I want to get the blue from the distribution, and there it is. We have access to the blue, and that's good to know. And what about the red? We should have access to the red as well. Okay, great. What about that main logo, S3 logo? And we have access to that too. So looking at the network diagram here, what we did was we said, all right, I'm blocking public access to my S3 bucket. And how do we do that? By saying block all public access. That's turned on, right? And then we said, but if you are CloudFront with that distribution ID, you are allowed to access that bucket and its contents. So going back over here to the CloudFront, actually let's go back to yeah, so everything's good to go there. Let's go back to the CloudFront console, and we need to now go back to distribution. Now I'm going to create some an error page. So I need to create a custom error response. So basically what I want to do, looking at this network diagram here again, is say that if a user is requesting an object that is not in this bucket, I want to serve up a message, a custom message to that user saying it's not available or it's being blocked. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create an error page saying error 404, page not found. And let's go ahead and do that. So error code 404 not found. We'll keep that as default. Customize error response. I want to say yes. The response is going to be from the directory of errors. .error.jpg, and it's going to be a page 404 not found response code. All right, that is done. So if I go back to Google Chrome and I say I'll copy this, so we have red and we have blue in the colors folder. Now I'm going to use the CloudFront distribution again, and I'm going to say brown. I want to retrieve a file called brown. There it is. So basically it's giving me an error 404, right? Because why is that? Let's look at it. Here is saying that, okay, if I'm serving up an error code 404, provide the user a custom error message, and here's the path for that. And within the path, this is where the path is here in the errors, and then it's being served up the error.jpg. Cool. Okay, so now we need to go back to the CloudFront, and then we need to set a geo restriction feature for our user. We're going to say if the user create under security, you can say CloudFront geographic restriction. And right now there's nothing set, so we're going to say edit for countries. Right now there's no restriction type, but we're going to say block. We're going to block and say if you're from the United States, you're going to be blocked. All right, so that's that. And then the error page here, I need to create another custom error. The error code is going to be forbidden, and basically it's going to say errors is the path and blocked.jpg, and the response code is going to be forbidden 403. I'm going to hit save, create custom error response. Okay, that's created. So back to the diagram. It's saying if you are from the United States and you are trying to access the S3 object, any object, CloudFront is going to block your access because based on your location, and this is the file is going to serve up, the customized file saying that you are blocked. So let's test that out. So let's go back to Chrome, and then we're going to say show me again. I'm accessing through CloudFront. I'm accessing the S3 logo, and there it is. It's blocked. Okay, so that's being blocked. What about all the other ones? That's blocked as well. And all these other ones, that's blocked as well. And these other ones, oh, this is from the S3 bucket. It's not going to do anything actually. Okay, so that's good to go. And so there it is. So now let's go ahead and we've already done everything we needed to do. We've already examined the S3 speed of CloudFront versus S3. We created a geographic restriction. We tested the error page and everything else we did. So let's go ahead and delete the CloudFront distribution. So for this one, this is going to take about 5 minutes to delete. First, you have to check your CloudFront distribution and then hit disable. All right, I'm going to set my timer here to see how long it's going to be. I'm going to hit disable. Okay, disable. Okay, so it's disabling. If I hit refresh, if I check on this, you can see that I don't have the option to delete it yet because it is disabling. So I'm going to set my stopwatch. I'm about 10 seconds behind, but here it goes. And I'm going to hit pause when I refresh and I see the delete tab available. I'll be right back. All right, I am back and I'm approaching 5 minutes. If I hit refresh here, and now I'm available, or the delete is now available here. So that took a while. That took a while. That took 5 minutes. That took 5 minutes. I can now delete it. So just keep that in mind. If you're just deleting your CloudFront distribution, it's going to take 5 minutes, and just be patient there. And so that's done on the CloudFront side. No distribution, so that's good to go. For the bucket itself, let's go ahead and delete the contents of the bucket here. Just see what else I can do. Let's go back to the main bucket here. Click on this, say empty, and I'm going to permanently delete all the contents in there because we are done with the demo. Okay, that's good to go. And then refresh. All right, no objects in the bucket. Okay, and then here I hit refresh, and then now I should be able to delete this bucket. All right, that's good to go now. All right, guys, so that was how I created a CloudFront distribution and how I created the origin access to retrieve my files from S3. And in that demo, I showed that there is a significant response time when using CloudFront. It's much faster than accessing the objects directly from S3. And so that was a fun one to do. What took the longest to create was the actual network diagram, drawing all the icons there. So one of these days I'm going to create a video on how to use Draw.io to do all these icons and how to draw things and set things up and whatnot. But yeah, that was fun, guys. Thank you very much for watching my video, and I can't wait to do the next one.